also a third party who played an active role in the development of both the FPS and the CCC, enrollees who volunteered their time and efforts. The CCC was, after all, a voluntary organization, and people could leave at any time. Without their willing participation, the CCC and the FPS would not have been possible. There were other options available, though admittedly few as appealing as the CCC. They could have worked in other programs, migrated out of state, or even turned to crime. But the enrollees not only chose to sign up for the CCC, in so doing they also agreed to help their families, as most of their pay was sent home to dependents. Though they did not have access to the decision-making process, the enrollees nevertheless shaped how the FPS and the CCC were run in Florida. They sometimes rebelled and protested if their desires were not met. Some petitioned the government, others went AWOL, while still others took up the pen. Enrollees also offered insight and ideas for solving problems encountered in park construction and operation. Although their options were limited, enrollees exerted what agency they could within the CCC and the FPS. In this book, I argue that the desire of Florida's government and business leaders to create a Florida Park Service for tourism was often in conflict with the aims and goals of both the federal government and the CCC enrollees, as well as with those of some local citizens who resented the social, cultural, demographic, and political changes that tourism brought. The tensions that sprang from these conflicts required negotiation and compromise, and resulted in a Florida Park Service that, in its final form, reflected the agendas of these parties. As politicians, park employees, and citizens continue to debate the role and purpose of the FPS and argue over park planning and operations in the present, the Florida Park Service has long been a favorite topic among both voters and elected leaders. Having a sense of the agency's origins may prove useful. Like most organizations, the FPS has been an evolving agency, reflecting the concerns and values of each generation since its inception. It turns out that many of today's debates over commercialization versus preservation, or balancing visitation and property protection, are nothing new. And all sides may be surprised to learn that today's thrice-awarded FPS bears little resemblance to its original incarnation. Listeners can decide individually whether that is a positive or negative development. But this is more than just the story of the CCC's creation of a few state parks. It also serves as a launch pad into understanding the larger story of Florida's current cultural and political climate. This story provides a window into the creation of modern Florida, a state where people debate whether it is Southern or Sunbelt. Who are real Floridians? Has Florida improved or declined over the past few decades? And are we paying too high an ecological and cultural price for commodifying the state's climate, history, and resources? In other words, the creation of the Florida Park Service is the story of modern Florida. There is little scholarly doubt that tourism and other forms of commodification have played a crucial role in Florida's social, economical, and cultural past. Whether the topic is the environment, politics, race relations, or Florida's Southern identity, at some point the discourse involves Florida's commercialized image as an inviting paradise. But few studies have dealt directly with that commercialization and its cultural and social effects upon the state. Fewer still have tried to locate the start of such commercialization. In this study, I attempt to accomplish that by examining Florida during the New Deal era. In its simplest form, the other major argument presented here is that Florida's commercialization, in a modern sense, began in the 1930s. Although, admittedly, these efforts were a rebirth and intensification of earlier efforts. But what was unique to the 1930s was that these efforts were fueled in large part by federal relief programs, as well as by an influential and largely non-native commercial